That should get everybody quiet. Hi, everybody. If you could take your seats, we want to get started. Hi, everybody, and hello, everybody on Zoom. We're doing this hybrid, so getting a few technical things out of the way. My name is Karen Daly. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn, and I want to welcome you all here today. This is the first time that we've done a couple things tonight. The first time that we've had a true joint community meeting with the League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn and the League of Women Voters of Wheaton. So we're excited about that. It's also the first time that we've done a state of the township. So the League of Glen Ellyn has done an annual state of the village, which is always well attended. And we have our village president, our village manager come and sure, you can't hear me? No. Okay. Can everybody hear me now? No? All right. You got the volume back there? Okay. Usually nobody has any trouble hearing me. So can everybody hear me okay now? Awesome. Okay. So first time doing a joint meeting and a first time with the state of the township. So we'd like to thank the Wheaton Library for hosting us in this wonderful space. We are going to have a couple of speakers tonight. So I'll introduce our new, well, not really new anymore, as it's been a year, right? Buffy Higgins-Beard, who is our township supervisor, and she's been in the role for about a year or so. And there's several people who've been who were league witnesses to the township, and we're really liking the direction that it's going and the things that are happening there. And I know we going to have a lot of questions here. So if you have white cards, you could pick them up at the beginning. You can write your question on that. We'll have people coming around to grab those. If you are online and you have a question, put it in the chat, and I'll also be looking for that in the chat. And well, without further ado, I think let's just get started so we can, yep. Oh, we do have somebody who's monitoring getting in. So, but thank you for that. So without further ado, Buffy.
All right. Can you hear me? I have had a head cold, so I actually cannot hear myself. Are we good? All right. I am here tonight and truly honored to be back in front of the League of Women Voters for both communities to tell you that the township is a vibrant place, and that's something we've learned over the last 8 months. It's also a synergistic part of government, and I'm going to spend some time both on the history of township as well as why it continues to exist. I think this state has done a really good job spending a lot of time talking about why township maybe shouldn't exist. So we're gonna spend a little time on that. Oh boy. They said this was gonna go. Are we here? Click somewhere. I don't think they're live. There we go. All right. Zoom. This is the party picture. So as many of you may be aware, 8 of us were elected in last April. That meant that we came into office in May. So I'm not going to call it a year yet. We're closer to 9 months. That new crew that came in was firsts in a few ways. It was the first 8 Democrats ever elected in 175 years to lead in Milton Township. That is notable. To my left and right in the picture, the trustees McGrath and McGowan are the first women to ever serve as trustees in 175 years. Yes, that we had female clerks, which I think the role has been seen in some ways as the secretary of the township. And then I hold the distinct honor of being the first woman, the first Dem, and maybe the shortest supervisor ever. So we were really excited. With me tonight is Highway Commissioner Drew, and he's going to come up, Mike's going to come up later to speak a little bit about some of the changes he's made over in the Highway Commission and also some common questions that are going on with recent events around the referendum. And yeah, so he'll be there at the end to help. So what should I cover? I've told you the background, why townships exist, what services we're having, and how we've been strengthening them and what's ahead. I am a history buff. And so this is a map to the right. I have a better one of where the township sits in DuPage County. There's a reason that we have township government, and there's a reason that our township is divided into this grid of 36 tracts. So before we can even talk about that, we have to talk about who was here first. So we do live on the ancestral homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwa, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi. And they were here for quite some time. There's still 3,700 indigenous peoples who are estimated to live in DuPage. But Illinois became a state in 1818. And its platting actually is due to a law, the Land Ordinance of 1785. So what happened was, back in Philadelphia, they needed to raise money. And in order to do so, they split up the westward part of the country into these township grids. It didn't matter if there were rivers, mountains in the way, natural places you would break. They just literally gridded the West, and then they sold it. That process, voted on by Monroe and Jefferson and other familiar names, caught up with Illinois. Illinois, again, statehood in 1818. And Milton came after the county was organized. So the county was organized in 1839, which was directly after the Treaty of Chicago was signed by the Potawatomi. So the Potawatomi ceded their remaining lands. They basically had been devastated by disease, loss of territory, and war. And in came DuPage County. Okay, it's a bit of an illustrious start, but that's where we start. Not that long after, the city of Wheaton was incorporated as a village in 1859. It becomes a city in 1890. And then the village of Glen Ellyn ends up showing up on the scene in 1892. So that's where we start. And when I was digging around in the history, one of the interesting things I found out was the central part of the township was actually recommended by our forefathers to be used for government and for education. So if you forgive me on Zoom, DuPage County Complex. Literally, we're living out the platting of 1785 with how some parts of our township are set up. Someone asked me earlier, why is it called Milton Township? And I did not write that down. I had that in an earlier speech. This is from memory. The first pioneer family here, the husband's name was Milton. I believe it was Sardgras. And Sardgras Township sounds pretty awful. So they went with Milton. There we go. So again, this was a perfect grid made before anything else was here other than indigenous villages and habits. So as a result, our township is not at all perfect in its lines. We can't tell you we go up to North Avenue and we have everything south of North Avenue because North Avenue runs up to the north and we don't. We don't run perfectly along Warrenville Road. It's just an imperfect map. The villages and towns came after. We cover all of Wheaton and Glen Ellyn. That's really simple. And then parts of a lot of other places. Carroll Stream, Lombard, I know we have some Lombardians in the back. Glendale Heights, Downers Grove, Lisle, Naperville, and Winfield. And I think we even have a little corner of Warrenville, which doesn't usually make our list. So that hopefully answers where the township is. We have over 120,000 residents in the township. Our age distribution is pretty even. So there's a lot of seniors, there's a lot of children, and we're more racially and religiously diverse now than we were 20 years ago. A little reminder that the distribution of real estate taxes, the township lives off of your property tax bill. And when you get that, townships are receiving in total, so everything we talk about tonight, highway, the assessor's office, anything that the offices, the supervisor oversees, all of those things and the mental health board receive 1.71% of your bill. Okay, so why have townships? Erica Nelson's in the room, and I think she says this a little differently, but the way I do our top three is we help those in need, we assess all the property in Milton, and we maintain the infrastructure of the unincorporated areas of Milton Township. And handy, there are 3 elected officials who take care of this. I'm on number 1. Our assessor handles number 2, and our highway commissioner, number 3. within that, there's a lot of nuance. I'm not going to talk a lot about the assessor's office today, but I will say that it is really seen as helpful to having somebody closer to where your properties are and knowing the ins and outs of how your community operates to come back with a fair value on your business or your home. And so that's why assessing is often held at a township level, not at a county level. I'll let the commissioner speak to all the value that his office provides. I will say for ours, we do a lot, and I'm going to talk about some of that tonight. We also maintain cemeteries. We run your mosquito abatement. We do senior services. We're a mini DMV. We give out medical equipment. We help the disabled. We run health grants for mental health, substance abuse prevention, and support of the disabled. More or less, township handles things from cradle to grave. And by state legislation, these things are not meant to overlap other government bodies. And I think that's really important to underline. So there's no one else maintaining the infrastructure that the highway department is doing. There is no one else out assessing the property. And there is no one else delivering specifically our general assistance and emergency assistance throughout the state. More widely, the argument for why township is that we're regional. So we've got a bigger view than just your city council or your village council, but we're also small enough to be very approachable. A township can move on an idea or an innovative response to a new problem with 3 votes. It's a little board. And I do think that that's a real strength. It's something that we definitely have exercised this last 8 months. We look to also be more responsive then to our unincorporated areas too, to be sure that they're getting good service. So that nimbleness, that knowledge, and that regional view are really the big selling points of township. I should point out the governor did not this year say we should get rid of township, which is a change from last year. So we'll just keep up with that topic as it goes over. So we've been doing a lot this last 8 months. I want to speak to each of these points. I will not bore you to death, but the incoming group did come in with 2 years of audits needing to be finished. Those are done. The incoming board also felt that we needed a fair look at the books because the public records that were available when an audit year ended and an audit year started didn't always match. So we've also launched an investigative audit, and those results will be back in March. We've been in audit land. We are almost out, and that's exciting. Both the commissioner and I have been committed to some pretty deep cleanup. And I don't mean anything terribly disparaging about that. These offices are 175 years old. There are different attitudes about what to keep and what not to keep. We've literally been working our way through a lot of objects, archives. Mike's had piles of different debris that I don't want to even talk about. So we've really committed to making sure that we're modernizing what we keep for the services we have now. The cross-departmental events has been a lot of fun. It turns out that these 3 departments, the assessor, the highway, and the township, even though I serve as the financial officer over all of them, they weren't necessarily interacting very much. And so we've brought the groups together for a couple trainings that were really fruitful and for 1 meal together. So it's not an excessive amount, but we're trying to be sure that the groups are working together. Maybe more importantly, we're saving money together. So the highway department is now who takes care of the vehicles for the township office, those sorts of things where we can help each other out. The township office is helping marketing in the highway department, those sorts of things. We've also really been committed to improved board professionalism. Again, forward looking. The group that has come in is working together. We don't always agree in opinion, but you're not going to see any nastiness or lawsuits as a result. So that's been an exciting change. We've really committed ourselves to increase communication and transparency. You can follow us. I'll show you a slide later in more places, including on Instagram now. Updated website in the highway. My department will soon have an overall township updated website. We're doing a lot in our meetings to pull a thread through the meetings so you can kind of understand where we've been and where we're headed. And lastly, we're doing a lot to modernize. And this sounds really like the least sexy point I could spend time on. I had staff working on computers that were 12 years old. My favorite was the receptionist who told me, well, it works fine until it turns off. Okay. Um, so simple things like that, ergonomic chairs, the ability to take payments by card and not insist that people bring in cash, exact cash. Just simple things like that. This is another place I'll give a nod to the commissioner. He ran straight to AI and apps. The highway now has the ability to report problems on an application you can put on your phone, which is great. And that follows the process all the way through its being solved. And he also has done some really interesting things with mapping the roads. And I'm not going to steal your thunder there, but a lot of modernizing going on. We're looking to do low cost, smart improvements and then put them on schedules so that we keep up with it. So this shouldn't be the last time computers are bought for a decade. So we're working on things like that. So moving into those departments that are so central to township, this is a couple graphs on our financial assistance and our services and referrals. I didn't realize this before I came into the role. I knew that township gave out money directly to people who are in need, and it does it while talking to other nonprofits and other government offices. So townships are actually asked to help people who have no income coming in. They are on 0 other government programs. That's one of its roles. It's called general assistance. And that's what the blue bar is. Over time, that bar is growing because need is growing, but also because trust in this office is growing. People know that they can come here and get help. Second, emergency assistance is what you'd expect. I can't pay my gas bill. It's going to be turned off. That's actually a bad example. That ends up going to a different program that's run by the actual gas provider. How about my phone bill? I can't pay my phone bill. Without my phone bill, I won't be able to, talk to my children when they're at school or get to work, that kind of thing. We help in those emergency situations under really strict guidelines with a lot of paperwork, and our caseworker is doing a really good job, but you're going to see that those numbers have gone up. Partially that's because we also updated our understanding of who's living in poverty. The indexes of how much you earned or had per month hadn't been updated in a while. So those now match the federal poverty level, which I think is only fair. Over here, we just tried to capture some of our many services. And I can't always explain why one year goes up and one year goes down. That's literally foot traffic through the door. But it's important to look that from 2023 to 2025, it's double the amount of people asking for some sort of service. So that's notable. We're both pleased because we're here to help and worried because that's a lot of folks coming in. Who in the room's seen CERT at an event? Come on, it's got to be most of you. Yes, the fluorescent people. I am almost done with the training. I am inviting you with that QR code to think about getting trained. The truth of it is, if there's an emergency in our community, you could be on your own for 3 days. That's what they say, 3 days nationally. And so you should be prepared to have enough food, water on hand, but also the skills to help your family and your neighbors in that time. This is a absolutely masterful training. They offer an online portion, just like any other Red Cross class. You got to do a little homework before you get there. And then 4 evenings. They're running it next in April. You get to learn how to use a fire extinguisher. You get to learn how to look for people after a storm. You learn the ABCs so you can call 911 and actually tell them accurately what's going on medically. It's absolutely lovely. And once you're graduated, you can never ever volunteer if that's your wish, or you can come out and be a volunteer in the fluorescent outfits. And we have folks who volunteered almost 10,000 hours last year. So we, using the actual amount that the government says a volunteer's paid per hour, that means we saved our local municipalities and park districts close to $250,000. That's a lot of money. And these are fabulous people. There are 3,000 CERT trained individuals in our communities, and about 250 are the ones that come out and volunteer on the regular. Love that CERT. Use that QR code. Just to be clear, retirees, families, teenagers over 14 with their parent can do it. It's truly open to all. And they told me and always reminded me, you are also able to be a CERT volunteer if you have a disability. They have a role for everybody. About 5 years ago, the community voted by referendum that we were going to have a community mental health board. This is the most phenomenal group of leaders. They are rigorous, responsible, they monitor, they evaluate, and they are doing really good things. Those monies are part of your tax bill, and $1.3 million went out into the community this year to help with mental health, to help with those with intellectual and developmental disability, and those either struggling with substance abuse or preventing substance abuse. A few of the organizations are just, I mean, there's such a smattering there. This picture is probably the worst one in my deck, but that is everybody who received money this year, as well as the board. I'm going to work with them on a professional photographer next time. But they welcome you at their meetings. They do really good work. And just by way of an example, one of the things they helped support this year was putting social workers into our local libraries to work with those folks in the library who might need some intervention or some support. Our seniors in law enforcement together is another invitation to connect. This is a group that gets together to do educational activities, as well as to talk about how to prevent being scammed. You do not have to be over whatever you want to call a senior, 55 for AARP, right? 65, who knows? We have new leadership there. Terry Albright is a former officer with the DuPage Sheriff's Office. She's great. She's also known around the community for walking around with Julia, her therapy dog. Karen Warner has just also joined us. She is very deep in management and the background of senior care, and we're just excited to have her with communications. So they meet on the second Monday at the Glen Ellyn Police Department, and I know we have some regulars in the crowd here who can talk about SALT. I didn't know this when I got elected, but that made me the chair of the Mosquito Abatement District of Glen Ellyn. There were a lot of things they didn't tell me, but okay. So I'm going to get to the bottom line here. May 6th, we're going to do an educational panel. And if this is something that you really have a lot of curiosity about, please join us. We will have Clark Environmental there. We will have a member of the DuPage County Health Department. They're the ones that run the Personal Protection Index, which was on 3 a lot of the summer, which is when we're concerned that people might get West Nile. And then we'll also have a member of Go Green Glen Ellyn. We're trying to have a balanced civil discussion about this topic. The point of the topic is that balance. We want folks not to get sick and die. 4 people in Illinois died this year of West Nile, 69 were infected. We were one of the earliest counties to see mosquitoes regularly hatch. I happen to live next to the Wheaton Marsh, so we're living it. We have a garden in the front yard, so when they fog my garden. I wanted you to at least know our steps that we follow all the time. Number 1, Clark is out detecting and then working with the health department and actually testing the mosquitoes. That's what's done every day. And that is good work. It's good, important work. There's a lot of deterrence work done already. Those large tablets are bicycled around by young students who they hire for the summer. Those are a bunch of sugars that they put down into the storm drains, which the non-scientific term is they blow up the mosquito guts. I can get you the scientific terms, but so it's a larvicide, right? So the larvae blow up, you don't end up with mosquitoes. They also release carp in some forest preserve areas to eat the mosquito larvae. Lastly, when levels get to a point that we're seeing a lot of West Nile, the decision is then asked of the district, is it time to do a low volume fog? That's done with state-of-the-art items. They do it at night when no one's out. They're doing their absolute best to minimize any sort of problems from that. Our representative from Clark always reminds me these aren't the chemicals of your childhood. At the same point, they are chemicals. And so we want to have a robust conversation about that. We fogged 4 times last year. It was an extraordinarily tough mosquito summer. So that's the abatement district. They also didn't tell me I'd have to bury bodies. So we have 3 cemeteries, and one of them will still accept burials. So we run 2 what are called pioneer cemeteries. They are closed. They no longer accept new burials. Jewel Grove is over on Champion Way. St. Stephen is up off of the Great Western Path. This sounds suddenly louder to me. Is that That's just my ears. Okay. Pleasant Hill and Winfield is still accepting burials. We took a fence down there. Thank you again to the highway department for that teaming. And our biggest thing coming up for cemeteries right now is we're doing some tree trimming. And I wanted you all to know we are going to burn the prairie. There is an acre of remnant prairie that has never been tilled next to our cemetery that we help maintain. And that will be burned sometime soon. So if you see smoke, don't panic. That's us doing a good job making sure that the soil health is improved and we see a few more plants. All right, I've only got a couple more here. The food pantry. This is perhaps one of our best known services and also one that has seen a great deal of challenge during our leadership time. It is a separate 501c3. It was started 20 years ago by members of the staff. They were worried about people who were coming in hungry. It's really committed to a lot of respect and dignity. When people come, they're met by a volunteer who actually shops with them. If you come to our building, you will understand that this is in the middle of everything in the building. So there's a small T-shaped hallway where we have our fridges and there's dairy, meat, and shelf-stable items. Produce is brought out into what is normally the community boardroom, and people shop throughout it. When I started, there were 25 families a shift. There's now 50. That has not necessarily changed since SNAP resumed. It's concerning, but we should be proud that that group was able to feed 13,000 individuals last year. And with your help, and I truly am partially here to say thank you for donations, thank you for money donations, thank you to the Northern Illinois Food Bank and local businesses. We met the need with the SNAP pause. So there was not a single person who came in who didn't leave with milk and eggs and bread and meat and what they needed. It was a small miracle. My background is in nonprofit. My background includes 6 years of working at People's Resource Center. So food pantries are they're a familiar space. And this pantry has been run as it should be legally as a 501c3 within a government organization for the last 20 years. One of the other things we're modernizing is our bylaws. So you're going to see that the listed leadership right now looks a whole lot like the list of trustees and elected officials. We are welcoming community members to help run the pantry, and you will soon see this look to be a list where there is the same amount of representation as we see on our other committees, which is 1 or 2 members from the board, and it's mostly community led. So we're excited about that. Another QR code if you're feeling like you want to donate. All right, so this was my pause moment to give you just a couple insights. I have some thoughts on what's ahead, and then I'm going to invite Commissioner Drew up. I came into Township thinking, all right, this will be fun. It's a lot like nonprofit. It isn't. Certainly, we've got a similar mission to help our neighbors and to do it with strong customer service. And I'm proud of this group that I work with. This is the entire hired team in all 3 departments. So I know that oftentimes people want to talk about, well, can't we get rid of this function and save money? We have a caseworker who deals with those over 2,000 people. That's one person. We have a highway department of less than 9 full-timers. It is a very small operation. People are working very hard to get these services done. So one insight is you're going to get great service, and we're a small, pithy team. I think another insight is that Township is really probably the least understood part of government. And so we're going to work on getting that word out. And I can't wait to hear your questions later. And I think the third realization is that we can be a little more inventive. So I could be up here and on my next slide tell you we're going to give out twice as many walkers next year. And that would be a good goal, but it's not the most exciting. And this board is really challenging itself to think about what services does this region need as we look ahead. And I'm going to be excited to say more about that at the annual meeting. What I can tell you is ahead are these few things. We're going to be inviting the community to 250 acts of service. Stay tuned. And some events, which I will tell you about at the end of my speech. We also invite you to learn about our investigative audit findings. That's our next meeting in March. with the kindness of our highway commissioner, there will be additional services available on that application that actually cross over to things that are done in township. You're going to see a new, pithier and more cost-effective newsletter. We also are making sure that our website is strong enough to send out information. And lastly, I've already mentioned mosquito abatement, if you want to learn about it, May 6th. There's another big project we're thinking about, but I can't announce that one yet. So with that, I'd like to let the commissioner come up and speak for a few minutes. He is a joy to work with. He's also a natural at the mic. So when I wave my hands, Mike, we got to stop. All right. You've got 2 slides.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. First, let me do a little explanation about the highway department, what we cover and what we do. So the highway department has 80 lane miles of road in unincorporated Milton Township. So to make that clear, we cover unincorporated areas of Milton Township with roads. Now, what is it that we do with the roads? So from the center line, 33 feet either side of the center line, we're responsible for everything in there and maintaining it and replacing it if necessary. So trees, ditches, water, culverts, sidewalks if they are. So I got about 50% sidewalks and 50% non-sidewalks in the unincorporated areas. And the same with curb and gutter, about 50%. We only deal with stormwater. We have nothing to do with sanitary and potable water. That all comes from the county or a private company in those areas. So we also do snow plowing. So my first taste of that was the Saturday after Thanksgiving. If you're all aware, we got predicted it 4 inches and we got 8 inches. And myself and our crew of 7 spent 16 hours in plow trucks over a 24-hour period. So those are the types of services that we provide for the unincorporated areas. Like Buffy said, we have approximately, well, I have 6 full-time maintenance staff and then an admin plus myself. One of those is a mechanic, which one of the things that Buffy and I talked about when we were running was partnering together with certain things. One of the big things was the people that came before us kind of saw this as a full separation, and the township itself, the parking lot at the township, was being subbed out to a third party to do the plowing there. And I didn't believe that was necessary when we have plow trucks less than 4 miles away. So we do the plowing there. It has saved the community about $3,000 a year or more. Buffy's giving me eyes, probably higher. I'm lowballing that maybe, but right off the bat, by combining those services. Buffy also mentioned we have a full-time mechanic to handle all our maintenance on our equipment. They come to us with their trucks and we do the service on the trucks. They pay for the parts and we cover the labor on that. They also fuel up at our fuel station that we have on site because we can get fuel cheaper because we buy it in bulk than you can at the gas pumps. Plus we don't pay tax on that fuel because we're tax exempt. So it's cheaper for the township to fuel up their vehicles at our facility. So a lot of these services we're trying to combine to save the taxpayers money, save you all money. One of the things that so far I'm most proud of is, and you can see this right here, download our MTHD app. That's the Milton Township Highway Department app. So when I got to the highway department, everything was done by phone, paper, pencil, pen, and the admin would spend hours filling out bond information and things like this. I wanted to bring that up to the 21st century. I think I got it to the 20th century, and I'm going to work my way up to the 21st century. But this app is available to anyone that wants to go on your app store, Google or Android, and download it. But what this app does is allows you to communicate directly with us through the app. One of the first thing it allows you to do is to report a concern. So if you live in one of those unincorporated areas and you have a tree branch come down in the street or on your, on your property, you can go to that through that app. You can go in and report that concern. What that does is there's a drop down box, you click it, and then there's a bunch of different stuff that you can report. Snowplow damage, dead animals. We're responsible for cleaning up dead animals in the street, not live ones. We don't do live animals. We do dead animals, but water damage, you're having flooding issues in your front yard or drainage issues. These things can all be reported through this app. And what it does, it sends a response to us that you have an issue. You can also attach photos that are geotagged. So if you had a dead animal in the street and you took a picture of it and you reported that concern, it tells us exactly where that animal is. And by sending the pictures, we know what tools or trucks or vehicles we need to go and rectify your concern. Whether it's, we need to bring out the chipper truck if you got a tree down, those types of things. So we're not having to run out there, check it, then run back to the shop and grab what we need. We can do it right through that app. And it also allows you to have a description or put a description of the issue that you have. You can also track the progress, and we communicate back with you as the work is being completed. So our two crews that can run out, each one has an iPad. So they go out, say that the tree's down or you got branches down, they'll go out there, they'll take a picture of it before, they'll clean up the situation, they take a picture of it after, they close out the concern, and you get an immediate notification with the pictures that your issue was resolved. It also gives me the opportunity to communicate directly with the individual. If it's something that maybe isn't as simple as sending a crew out, I can send a message back. Hey, when are you available to meet? I'd like to come out and talk to you about your issue. And then they can communicate right back, and we can set up a time and I can go out there and have a meeting and figure out a solution to their issue. The other thing it does is our offices close at 3:30 on Friday, and they don't reopen until 7:30 on Monday morning. So prior to having the app, if you called us after hours, we wouldn't answer. We don't have an answering service. We don't have an emergency answering service that lets us know you have an issue. You would have had to call the county sheriff, and then the county sheriff turns around and calls one of us, and then we may or may not get that in a timely fashion to come out and help you with your issue. This immediately goes to my phone, goes to my foreman's phone. We can look at it all weekend, off hours. And if it's a serious enough issue, we have one of our staff on call 24 hours. We can get them up and running and out there. So it's one of the things that I'm really proud to start with communication. I think communication is fundamental between the highway department and its citizens. Another thing that we put together is a program called Violytics. Violytics, as Buffy mentioned earlier, it's an AI program that allows us to use a cell phone with this program on it in order to evaluate the roads in our township. So by purchasing this program, it saved the township probably a couple thousand hours of going out and doing an inspection on the roads. So the way that the roads have always been redone, in other words, we tear up the asphalt, the curbs, and we replace it. They've always done by subdivision or by community in an area. And what I learned after this program was it rates your roads from 0 to 100. Anything with a 70 or over rating is an acceptable road. Anything that's under 70, you need to start looking at maintenance or replacement. But what I noticed was that we were replacing roads before their life expectancy was over. So we were spending money replacing a road that didn't necessarily need to be replaced because we just did it in bulk by an area. What this allows the highway department to do now is to single out the worst of the worst roads and do those first without redoing surfaces that still have life in them. By going forward, that's going to allow us to save money to the taxpayers and not redo roads that don't need to be redone yet. The other thing that this allows me to do is to put together a 4-year plan, which I hope by the end of 2026 that I'll have on the website. And you'll be able to go and see your road. If you live in an unincorporated area, you'll know exactly what your rating is. We'll have an explanation of the rating system. And you should be able to see if your road is going to be in the next 4-year plan. All right. So we should have a 4-year plan going forward of the roads we're going to replace and when they're going to be replaced. If you don't see your road in that plan, you can see your road and see what it's rated, and it's probably rated above that 70 mark, and it's still good. All right. So that's the other program. They've just added something to that, and that's we can go out and rate the sidewalks. So you may see your highway commissioner on a bicycle with a phone mounted on it, riding up and down your sidewalks, because that's how it picks up the rating. It uses AI technology, and it picks up all the cracks in the road. So it'll pick up all the cracks in the sidewalk, broken sidewalk, potholes. It immediately identifies them that we can use our computer system to click on a spot and it'll show us a picture of that pothole or crack. It also identifies the 1900 streets, not street signs, traffic signs that we're required to maintain. And it breaks them down. So we can see every stop sign that had a sticker put on it, that's fading, that's dirty. And now this spring, we have a plan to go out and clean these signs up so they're in better condition going forward. Technology is a wonderful thing when it's used correctly, but it does break. So I'll tell you that it does break. And then one other thing I wanted to talk about tonight was the referendum that I have, or I should say the township has, for a new levy. This is a little complicated and I'm going to go through it, but the levy has 2 parts to it. Okay. The first part of the levy is to transfer costs from a levy that's currently there called the General Road Fund over to this new building and equipment levy. So under the General Road Fund in the budget for 2025, you'll see about $600,000 of costs for building maintenance, equipment maintenance, and new equipment purchases. If this levy gets passed, or hopefully when this levy gets passed, those costs would immediately shift over to the building and equipment levy. Now you're probably wondering why the shift. The General Road Fund requires the highway department to give back 1/3 of every dollar collected to those 9 incorporated towns that you saw that are part of Milton Township, with Wheaton and Glen Ellyn getting the bulk of that. My General Road Fund is about a $1.3 million levy, and the highway department gives back $400,000 a year to those incorporated towns. Okay. We can't use that money. We have to give it back. So what does that mean? That means in order for the highway department to use 600,000, we have to collect 800,000 because 200,000 is going back to the incorporated towns. By shifting the costs of that 600,000 over to the new levy, I only have to levy 600,000 to use 600,000. That's an immediate savings right there to the taxpayers. And I estimate that to go down about 60% in the General Road Fund as soon as the building road fund levy is approved. The second part of the building and road fund levy is to utilize additional funds collected above that 600,000. The plan is to levy 1.6 million for 2 years. That additional $1 million would be put into a capital fund, and we would use it to build a new maintenance facility for the equipment that we have. And what does that mean? So the current building we have was built in 1970. It's a pole barn. If you come out to our open house on Saturday, and I can go back to that, our open house this Saturday, and I welcome everyone out to come and see what I'm talking about. Visit the grounds. This is our 4th one that we've done. We did 2 in January. We did 1 last Saturday. Some of you in the room have been out. I see faces that I recognize. And you were able to get a tour with the employees that work at this facility day in and day out and manage your roads along with myself. You can see that this building in 1970 is falling apart and needs to be replaced. Okay. This building houses $3 million worth of snow and construction equipment to do our work. And it had a dirt floor in it. One of the first things I did when I got there is I removed 8 inches of dirt and I replaced it with grindings from a project we had going on. So it doesn't have a dirt floor anymore, but it doesn't have a concrete floor. It has no drainage in the floor. It loses and lacks heat. And what does this do? In the wintertime, we store our snow trucks in there after we get done with going out and plowing the roads. Well, the heat in there stays at about 55 degrees. It melts the snow. It gets down into what was the dirt floor, turns back into moisture, and it rots those trucks from underneath. All right. So we're not getting the life expectancy out of those trucks that we should. Thus, we're spending taxpayer dollars to replace them more often. This building would help change that and correct that. The other thing it would allow us to do is would give us a wash bay. We don't currently have a real wash bay. We have a middle barn that we can get smaller trucks in and use a garden hose to wash these trucks. Or we put them in our main building, which is our offices and mechanics. We have 3 bays for the mechanics, and we can use a garden hose in there to wash the trucks. But it doesn't really clean the undercarriage the way it should. The only time we can get out and clean those undercarriages is when we get a day above, like tomorrow, above 40 degrees. Then we go outside and we use a fire hydrant and a fire hose to clean these trucks and vehicles. So that's the second thing it would do. The third thing it would do is give the employees that work there a place to have a break room that is not in a mechanic's bay. All right. And what do I mean by that? They have a break table for their lunch and breaks that is right next to those 3 mechanics bays. We joke that there's an invisible wall there. You people that have been out at the open house saw the yellow line on the ground. There's an invisible wall that, as we know, back in the days when there was a smoking and a non-smoking section, you had that invisible wall, right? That just kept the smoke in one area and it never came over to the other area. We have that same invisible wall that keeps the exhaust fumes, the welding fumes, the chemicals that we use to maintain our trucks. It stays on that side and it never comes over to where the employees are eating their lunch or taking their break. So it would give us an ability to give them a separate area in order to have a safe space to take care of themselves and protect themselves. So that's the 2 purposes of the levy. With that, I don't have any more. I'm sure there'll be questions later and I'll be sticking around. Thank you.
All right. We want to leave enough time for questions. I'm going to make sure that there are invitations everywhere, but you should know we are celebrating America's, let's all say it together, semi-quincentennial. We can all say it, right? It's a good one. America's 250th. It's a bipartisan effort that's been planned for 10 years. Township does celebrating patriotic things with a flair. So please join us. Our first one's on May 16th. There are going to be historical reenactors, including a woman in the mix, cannon fire, tree planting, song. It goes from there. We will have a wonderful reading of the Declaration of Independence at one of our upcoming meetings. Pleasant Hill will have a full-on patriotic band concert on June 26th. And you're going to be looking for the township and those highway vehicles at both of the parades this year. I wanted to be sure I closed inviting you all to the annual meeting. Township government is a government by the community. And so at the township annual meeting, you are actually the electors. You are the ones who vote on things. Right now, we know for absolutely sure that there will be an authorization of powers vote. That is an annual vote. My husband loves the part where I get to be in charge of when the swine, goats, cattle, and horses can run in the streets. That is a supervisor power. But there's a whole list of powers we need to be granted annually. There's also an entire open forum and public comment section. We welcome anyone who wants to come to the mic following the rules. And then there could be agenda items. And the meetings have lasted for very short periods of time, 30 minutes, up to 2 hours. I will point out we're meeting at the Wheaton Community Center, which is under construction. So just be prepared to take a bit of a hike from where the parking is to that large room. You have to be a registered voter to vote as an elector. And we do ask for ID. Yes. And lastly, follow us. We need more followers, whether you're a Facebook person, an Instagram person. We're also out on YouTube. All of the township meetings are now recorded. They are uploaded within a week-ish, let's say 10 days of the meeting. So if you can't make the meeting and you're real excited about some part of it, we won't be offended if you fast forward and just watch parts of our meetings too. So with that, I think we'll open to questions.
Next to you so people can also hear the questions online. We had a few questions about interactions with other government bodies, and one specifically one was oh, sorry, thank you. How do the townships of Illinois interact with each other? Do you share best practices? Do you work with other townships? How does that work?
That's a great question. There are several layers to this. The supervisors in the area of DuPage County meet once a month. The highway commissioners also meets. The Townships of Illinois is a wonderful organization. They offer a lot of best practice training, conferences, and also lobby. In addition, there's a Metropolitan Township Association. So you can envision that the issues in Southern Illinois in a township with a fraction of the population we have might have different areas of focus. And so we're also part of that group, which is 27 townships that are metropolitan, again, offering training. We just had training on how to run a good annual meeting, how to budget well, ethics in the role, all sorts of good stuff there. Membership is really low cost for what we get out of all of those organizations.
Great, thank you. I hope you can hear me now.
Ooh,
I can hear myself. I'll break into song in a minute. The one question we have here too is, if you're living in Glen Ellyn, is there a difference? Village of Wheaton versus in the incorporated part of that. What difference would they see in terms of what the township offers them?
We lost you. So I heard the question is, what's the difference between living in incorporated, either Glen Ellyn or Wheaton, or unincorporated?
Vis-a-vis the town.
Vis-a-vis the township. We like everybody. So we're here for you all. That's the first part of that answer. I'm going to bring you up here for this one. We're here for everybody in the township. We're here to be a notary service or a mini DMV or here to help your financial needs. But when it comes to, oh, you really scared me there. When it comes to services that are more fundamental in infrastructure, there is a difference there. Yes. If you want to speak to that.
Yes. So like Buffy said, the township itself, the general services, everyone in Milton Township is served. For the unincorporated areas, they get the highway department service, okay? Because you have public works in Glen Ellyn and Wheaton, and they do the same thing that we do. So there's no crossover. The county only takes care of the county roads in the county. They do not do the unincorporated residential areas. That's the township. Just a little FYI for information. There is 900 miles of road, unincorporated road in DuPage County that is maintained by the 9 townships in DuPage County. So there's always that talk that we don't need townships anymore. If you talk to DuPage County and the Public Works Department, they do not want an additional 900 miles of road. So when that comes up, they're the first ones screaming, no, no, no.
Well, since we're talking about that, one of the questions, and only one, is why not dissolve the township and incorporate the services into other places? So that's one of the answers.
To be clear, I think that answers that, other than we do have a couple townships in the area that had very, very few miles of road that they dissolved the wall between the highway and the township. So the supervisor is therefore the commissioner and the supervisor. We have a higher number of miles and areas to maintain than most. I think we've covered that. We're happy to talk about that afterwards. And quite frankly, Mike and I are still learning all the sort of ins and outs of this ongoing debate.
And I think you can see why people are here, because they are interested in what the township does and what services you have. And if you have anybody online, we don't see any comments coming through, but if you have a question, please post it in the comment section online. This one is for you. So it says, my understanding of the referendum on the March 17 ballot is that it has a date that will sunset. There is a lot of disinformation out there about the referendum. Can you confirm the way the referendum will work? And we should say that both the League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn and Wheaton have not taken a position. Sometimes we do take positions on referendums, and we haven't because we haven't had the time to study it, not because we believe it one way or the other is positive or negative. So I just wanted to make sure that that statement is made. But would you like to answer this question with also keeping in mind that,
Yes,
we're not.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So the referendum is for a vote to make a permanent levy for building and equipment for the highway department. Okay. I talked earlier about the shift of costs from the general road. That's what would be in the building and equipment for the remainder of its lifetime. The 2-year sunset that is mentioned is about the additional $1 million collected for each of the 2 years. It's estimated that the building that we want to build, 105 by 71, is about a $2 million building. Those costs are based on a study that the county did in 2024. There was a square footage determination that the cost would be $210 a square foot, and I estimated that to be $275 a square foot by the time we get the opportunity to build that building. So 2 years, you'd collect that $1 million. Then that would be reduced down to the 600, the cost shift from the general to the building and equipment. And like I mentioned earlier, when you do that cost shift, the general road fund's going to be reduced by 60%. That levy is going to go down 60% or better.
Also a good point to mention that every year the board actually looks at all of the levies and votes on their levels. So your vote of who you put on the board helps influence that. We have lowered 2 of our levies this year. So Mike's, doing well by those buildings and that equipment, but we've also lowered 2 levies.
Right. The next question is, when a resident comes to the township for financial or crisis assistance, are there requirements? For example, status, finances, et cetera, and how do you determine those?
So the general assistance fund that I described is actually legislated. So the state of Illinois has decided the rules on that, and it is for citizens in that case. There's a pretty extensive list of paperwork, everything from what's in their bank accounts, what's in some sort of a cash account they might have, what their current bills are. The files are this thick. They collect a lot on the situations. Our emergency assistance is actually guidelines that are set by the supervisor in consultation with the board. And so there we have a little more flexibility. And for instance, we do help non-citizens at times with their situations.
And this is the last one that we have up here. So if anybody has any more, please write them on a, see this woman here to write them down for us. This one is about sustainability. Who has responsibility for sustainability issues, township or the villages? Specifically, what entity can address, for example, the use of single-use plastic and reducing that?
It's a really good question. My sister lives in California, which they should be gone. That is not in our list of powers. So we are able to make a limited amount of ordinances and rules about unincorporated roads and what goes on in those neighborhoods. But you're back to your village or your city with issues of single-use plastics and the county. And I will come and smile and say, yay, good idea. But yeah, that's not us, unfortunately.
I don't see any other questions out there. I don't know if you have any other things.
I just really thank you for your attention. I never thought I'd stand up here talking about mosquitoes and burying people and road miles, but we really are here to help. If you have further questions, please come up afterwards, and we appreciate your attention tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Janet Stiven and wanted to thank you all for attending tonight on behalf of the Wheaton League of Women Voters. And we were excited to have partnered with the Glen Ellyn League on this very important program. Thanks to Buffy and to Mike for such a great explanation of what the township government does. I think that was terrific. I wanted to extend an invitation to everybody here and everybody online to join us next Wednesday, 2:30 to 4 at the Wheaton History Center. We're having a reception kicking off our 1776 exhibit in honor of the 250th. I'm not going to try to say the word celebration of our country's founding. So I hope you can join us next week. Thanks so much.
So I was so happy to see everybody, a lot of people taking, I'll go over here. Thank you, Barbara. Seeing people take notes, that was terrific. I think it was a very engaging presentation, so we really appreciate the township coming out. The League of Women Voters of Glen Ellyn has a couple of things coming up. We do a monthly democracy drop-in, which is on the second Tuesday of the month. Next one is March 10th at the library at 11 o'clock, and it's going to be about an election security. So that should be a really interesting one. We learn about the topic, and then we write or send letters to Congress to talk, or any other elected official, maybe a township sometimes, to address that. And then on March 19th is our next community meeting. It's completely online. It is going to be about unaccompanied children in the immigration system. We have a panel, so that'll be a good one. That'll be March 19th at 7 p.m. I also want to give a shout out to all the voter services people here from both leagues. The voter services people have been super hard at work over the last few months to try to get vote411.org up and running. And that is a great resource for all of your election needs to find out about who's on the ballot. We've got the primary coming up on March 17th. Early voting is already open. So the league, this is the one thing that the league really does well, is to inform the public about what they're voting, what is on the ballot, and where the options are, where they can vote, and how they can find out more information. So vote411.org. And that is all I have. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it.